When you picture a major professional sports stadium, your mind probably goes straight to concrete oceans.
Right, like massive parking lots.
Yeah, exactly. Dedicated highway off-ramps or, maybe a tailgating scene stretching out for miles in every direction.
Because accessibility basically dictates all modern stadium design.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire engineering blueprint usually revolves around a single massive problem.
Getting people in and out.
Right. How to move 40,000 cars as fast as physically possible without causing total gridlock.
But imagine a major sporting event where there are 0 cars.
Just none.
None. No parking lot, no highway. The opposing team, their coaching staff, their equipment managers, and literally 7,000 screaming fans all have to arrive at the stadium by boat.
It genuinely sounds like a logistical nightmare.
Oh, totally.
Or, like a bizarre tactical disadvantage that some local tourism board thought would be a cute idea.
It sounds like a secret villain's lair, right? But it is entirely real. Okay, let's unpack this. Today is July 9, 2026. And we are pulling from a massive stack of sources for you today. We've got comprehensive historical Wikipedia data, detailed end-of-season match reports from this most recent campaign, and some very high-level strategic outlooks analyzing modern sports finance.
It's a lot of ground to cover.
It really is. Our mission for this deep dive is to synthesize all of this so you can understand how a football club playing on a literal sinking island survived 3 bankruptcies, a devastating tornado, and the outright theft of their entire roster.
Which is still crazy to think about.
Insane. All to emerge from the ashes and just be crowned the 2025-2026 Serie B champions. We are looking at the wildest, most turbulent story in all of Italian football, Venezia FC.
It really is a massive multi-generational story.
Yeah.
And, to really appreciate the magnitude of this 2026 title, we have to establish just how uniquely situated this club is.
Right, the geography.
Exactly. You simply cannot separate the business and the sport of Venezia FC from the brutal geographic reality of Venice itself.
So the club was founded back in 1907, and by 1913 they opened their home ground, the Stadio Pier Luigi Penzo.
Second oldest stadium in Italy, by the way.
Right behind Genoa's. And it's situated on the edge of the island of Sant'Elena.
Yep.
So how does a professional team actually operate out of a facility that you literally have to take a ferry to reach?
With immense difficulty and massive overhead costs. What's fascinating here is how Venezia managed to build a national sporting powerhouse despite these insane constraints.
Because it's not just getting the players there.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Maintaining infrastructure on an island in a lagoon means you are constantly battling saltwater corrosion, subsidence, and logistical bottlenecks.
Wow.
Like, think about it. If a stadium seat breaks in Milan, a truck brings a new one in an hour.
Right.
If a seat breaks at the Penzo, it has to be loaded onto a barge, navigated through actual canal traffic, and then carried by hand into the stands. The elements themselves are like a constant opponent.
I was reading about the tornado in 1970, September 11th. This massive funnel cloud sweeps through the lagoon and just tears through the stadium.
Just devastated it.
Yeah, the damage was so extensive they had to reduce capacity down to just over 5,000 seats. It feels like nature itself was trying to relegate them.
The maintenance costs alone would have bankrupted other clubs. But despite that constant friction, they built periods of absolute brilliance. I mean, the 1940s were their true golden era.
Right. They won the 1940-41 Coppa Italia, beating Roma in the final.
Huge achievement.
And then the very next season, they finished 3rd in Serie A.
Which is still their highest ever finish in the top flight. And that success was engineered on the pitch by a legendary duo, Valentino Mazzola and Ezio Loik.
The sources talk a lot about them.
Yeah, they were absolute magic together. They functioned as the creative and physical engine of the team.
Yeah.
But this golden era also introduces the harsh mechanism of football economics that kind of defines Venezia's entire existence.
Because they couldn't keep them.
Exactly.
The sources note that in the summer of 1942, Venezia sold both Mazzola and Lork to Torino for 1.2 million lira.
Which is an astronomical sum at the time. I mean, truly massive.
Yeah.
But this is the reality of the European football pyramid. Venezia was highly successful on the pitch, but they just were not backed by the endless concentrated industrial wealth of the mega clubs in Milan or Turin.
So they hit a ceiling.
Right. When you operate a club in a tourist city with high logistical overhead and, naturally capped local fan base, your primary revenue stream becomes player sales.
You have to sell your best guys.
Yeah. You develop generational talent, and then you have to cash in those assets just to keep the lights on.
That geographic magic, as beautiful as it is, offered zero protection from the balance sheet.
Not at all.
And as the decades rolled on, those financial struggles forced some pretty drastic corporate changes. Like they even had to completely change their identity. I was looking at the history of their colors, and it's a bit of a roller coaster.
Well, the visual identity of a club is usually sacred. But financial desperation forces some really tough compromises.
Yeah. So originally, Venezia wore blue and red.
Right.
Then they shifted to green and black. But in 1987, there's a merger. They absorbed a mainland club called AC Mestre.
Yep. Across the bridge.
Right. And Mestre's colors were orange and black. So they combined them, creating the famous Aranciano Verde, the orange, black, and greens. And they adopt the golden-winged lion badge. How does a merger like that even work in European football?
From a business perspective, that 1987 merger was a pure survival mechanism.
Just to stay afloat.
Exactly. You have the island club, which has the history and the prestige, right?
Yeah.
But has massive operating costs and a shrinking, aging local population.
Right.
Then you have the mainland club, Mestre, which has a much larger, more working-class demographic and way easier logistics. But they have less historical cachet.
So they need each other.
Yeah. By merging them, the ownership was basically attempting to pool the fan bases, consolidate the revenue streams, and eliminate a local competitor for sponsorships.
And this merger coincides with the arrival of Maurizio Zamperini, who takes over in 1986.
Yes, a very important figure.
And under Zamperini, they actually see real success. They make it back to Serie A. By the 1998-99 season, they pull off this miraculous survival in the top division, powered by Alvaro Recoba and Filippo Maniero.
It was an incredible season.
But Zamperini's tenure ends with what has to be one of the most bizarre events in modern sports history.
Oh, the furto di purging. The theft of purging.
I literally had to read this section of the Wikipedia data 3 times to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding it.
Sounds made up.
It really does. So it's July 2002. Zamperini decides he's done with Venezia and he goes and buys another club, Palermo. But he doesn't just sell his shares and walk away. In the middle of the night, at Venezia's pre-season training camp in the town of Pergine Valsugana, he takes 12 players, the manager and the sporting director, packs them onto a bus, and literally drives them away to Palermo's pre-season camp.
He essentially performed a corporate raid on his own company.
I mean, imagine your CEO leaves your company, and in the middle of the night, he packs the top 12 engineers, the VP of operations, and the HR director onto a Greyhound bus to go work for your biggest rival.
Oh.
How is that even legally possible in professional sports? Don't these players have contracts with Venezia?
They do, but you have to look at the mechanism of control Zamperini had. During that transitional window, he effectively held power over both clubs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he could orchestrate mutual contract terminations at Venezia, or have Palermo simply buy the player registrations using his newly injected capital, all while he was still the one signing off on the paperwork for the selling club.
That is just wild.
To Zamperini, those players weren't human beings tied to the city of Venice. They were just performing assets on a ledger. He simply moved the assets from his old shell company to his new one.
The fans must have been absolutely destroyed. I mean, you can't just cheer for a corporate shell when the owner literally kidnapped the soul of the team.
No, you can't. This raises an important question about the delicate, often toxic balance between a community's historic connection to a team and the cold reality of billionaire ownership.
Yeah, because it's so unbalanced.
To the fans, the club is a public trust. It's a generational inheritance, right?
Yeah.
But to the owner, it's just a private equity asset. That betrayal didn't just break the club's spirit, it completely shattered its financial structure.
And that sends them into a total death spiral. Because after Zamperini leaves, the club just collapses into what we have to call the dark years.
I got really bad.
They suffer 3 separate bankruptcies in 2005, 2009, and 2015.
Look, bankruptcies are a known systemic issue in the lower tiers of Italian football, largely due to chronic financial mismanagement and owners chasing promotion with money they just don't have.
But 3?
Exactly. 3 bankruptcies in a single decade is catastrophic.
How does a club even survive that? If a normal company goes bankrupt 3 times, it ceases to exist.
It requires an understanding of how sporting titles work in Italy. Think of it like a beloved local restaurant that goes completely broke.
Okay.
The holding company that owned the restaurant is liquidated to pay off debts. This company's dead. But the Football Federation allows a brand new company with new owners to essentially rent the name and the location of that restaurant, what they call the sporting title, provided they start over at the very bottom of the competitive pyramid.
So the club keeps the colors and the fans, but the corporate entity is entirely new.
Exactly.
It got so bad that our sources show in 2009, the actual mayor of Venice, Massimo Cacciari, had to personally supervise the founding of this new corporate entity just so the city wouldn't lose its football team entirely.
Just to keep it breathing.
They were relying on municipal intervention just to play amateur football.
But, rock bottom is an incredibly effective catalyst for change. The traditional model of Italian football management, where local businessmen rely on passion, gut feelings, and massive high-interest loans, was clearly broken for Venezia.
Yep.
They needed a total system shock.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. In 2015, American investors arrive. First, attorney Joe Tacopina rescues the club out of bankruptcy. He's later followed by Duncan Niederauer, the former CEO of the New York Stock Exchange.
Talk about a shift in background.
Right. They don't just inject capital, they bring an entirely foreign operational philosophy.
They basically brought Wall Street mechanics to a sinking Italian island. And the strategic outlooks highlight this massive shift. They hired Alex Menta, a young American analytics director, and moved towards strict data-driven recruitment.
I always hear about data analytics in sports, but how does that actually save a club in the Italian lower leagues?
It removes the emotion.
Really? Just like that?
Yeah. Instead of signing an aging, expensive former Serie A star just to sell season tickets and appease angry fans, you use advanced metrics.
That's what kind of metrics?
Things like expected goals, progressive passing distance, high-intensity sprint volume. You use these to identify deeply undervalued players in obscure leagues.
Oh, I see.
You buy a player from the Finnish second division or the American minor leagues for pennies, develop them, and either win with them or sell them for millions. It's really the only way to build equity.
So they were essentially applying Moneyball principles to rebuild the club's balance sheet.
Exactly.
And it worked. They climbed from Serie D, literally amateur football, all the way to Serie A in just 5 years.
And the city went crazy.
They celebrated that promotion with a massive boat parade on the Grand Canal. It must have been beautiful. And while they bounced between Serie A and Serie B a bit over the next few seasons, the financial stabilization never stopped. In 2024, they executed a significant capital raise featuring Apex Capital.
A capital raise like that is a massive indicator of health. When private equity firms like Apex inject funds, they aren't doing it so a manager can go buy a flashy striker.
Right, they want returns.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That capital is used to clear high-interest structural debt, improve the analytics infrastructure, and upgrade training facilities. It's about building a foundation that won't just vanish the next time the team loses 3 games in a row.
The paradox there is just amazing to me. To save this deeply historic, passionate, 119-year-old Italian community institution, they had to strip away all the Italian football traditions and apply cold, emotionless financial logic.
That paradox is the core of their survival. And, that American data strategy wasn't just a boardroom theory. It directly engineered the squad that took the pitch for the 2025-26 season.
The math finally materialized on the pitch. As of today, July 9, 2026, Venezia are the champions of Serie B.
Incredible achievement.
They're heading back to the top flight. When you look at the match reports from the end of the season, there is this 5-game stretch that just defies logic.
That final run was the absolute validation of the entire rebuild. When the pressure was highest, they put together an unstoppable 5-match unbeaten streak.
3 wins, 2 draws.
Yep, 10 goals scored and only 3 conceded.
They started with a gritty 1-1 away draw against Verticentella.
Good result.
But then the machine just clicked. A 3-0 thrashing away at Bari, a beautifully composed 2-0 clean sheet at home against Empoli, and then the critical match, a 2-2 away draw at Spezia.
The one that did it.
Yeah, that specific result officially secured their promotion back to Serie A with a game to spare.
Securing promotion early changes the entire psychology of a squad. It really allowed them to go into the final match of the season with the financial windfall of Serie A already locked in, meaning they could play with absolute freedom for the league title itself.
And this is where the story becomes a Hollywood script.
It really does.
The grand finale, a 2-0 home win to clinch the Serie B title, and the club they beat to lift the trophy.
You couldn't write it. The same club that Maurizio Zamparini bought. The same club that received that busload of stolen players 24 years ago.
The poetic justice is just off the charts. They literally exorcised a 2-decade-old demon to win the championship.
And the details of that match highlight the success of their recruitment model, too.
How so?
Well, after a tight, tense first half, the deadlock was broken by Issa Doumbia, a really young talent, and then sealed in stoppage time by Mattia Campagna.
Not the aging star.
No, these aren't expensive, aging mercenaries. These are the exact profile of players the analytics department was built to find. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this title proved that sustainable squad depth is far more valuable than a few flashy superstars.
The confetti is being swept up at Stadio Penzo right now. The winged lion is flying high. But we have to look at the strategic outlooks for next season because promotion to Serie A brings a terrifying new reality.
That's the whole new world.
You are suddenly swimming in a tank with apex predators. You have to play Juventus, Inter Milan, AC Milan. How do they avoid the trap? How do they avoid overspending, getting relegated, and going bankrupt all over again?
Well, the club's published outlook is hyper-focused on consolidation. They are prioritizing a sustainable project over immediate, massive success.
So keeping the budget tight.
Yeah, that means they will not abandon the data-driven recruitment model. They will continue to develop young talent rather than relying on expensive signings.
Makes sense.
Off the pitch, the priority is commercial growth and expanding their international profile to increase baseline revenue. The ultimate goal is simply to survive in Serie A long enough to establish a real financial foothold.
Okay, I have to challenge this logic, though.
Okay, go ahead.
Sustainable project is a great buzzword for a press release in July.
Sure.
But let's look at the reality of Serie A. Data is cute until October rolls around. You've lost 4 games in a row. Juventus is up 3-0 at halftime. And the fans are rioting outside the stadium demanding you do something.
It's high pressure.
It's extremely high pressure. Doesn't the American ownership eventually cave? Isn't there a massive temptation to abandon the spreadsheet, take on a bunch of debt, and panic by 3 expensive veterans in the January transfer window just to save the season?
It is the ultimate temptation, and it destroys clubs every single year. The pressure of a relegation battle makes brilliant financial minds make completely irrational, emotional decisions.
Exactly.
But Venezia has a unique deterrent, their own catastrophic history. Those 3 previous bankruptcies aren't just trivia, They are fresh corporate trauma.
They remember it.
Yes, they know exactly what the abyss looks like because they were legally dissolved 3 times. If they abandon their sustainable model now to appease angry fans in October, they know history will violently repeat itself by May. They physically have to lock themselves into this strategy.
So they have to remember the pain of the past to protect the joy of the present. They basically have to remain as cold and clinical in the boardroom as they were on the pitch against Palermo.
Exactly. And that tension between modern financial reality and historic identity leaves us with a fascinating final thought to consider.
Let's hear it.
Venezia is brilliantly utilizing its stunning aesthetics, the beautiful jerseys, the unique island location to build a global brand appeal. Right?
Yeah, they're super trendy right now.
And that global brand secures their financial future. But as they scale this up, does the modern business of sports risk turning a deeply historic, localized community team into a generic global lifestyle brand?
That's a huge risk.
And honestly, if selling expensive vintage jerseys to fashion influencers in New York and Tokyo is what keeps the club alive and playing football on a sinking island in the lagoon, is that necessarily a bad thing?
A compromise for survival. So what does this all mean for you listening? Why should you care about a football team in Venezia? Because Venezia FC is the ultimate case study in resilience. Whether you're navigating a career setback, a failed project, or a massive life change, survival means adapting to modern realities while holding on to your core identity. Just like keeping the winged lion on the chest, it makes you wonder what else we'd be willing to sell to save the things we love. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the beautiful, chaotic story of Venezia FC. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and maybe next time you're frustrated by a massive stadium parking lot, just remember at least you don't have to commute by boat. Catch you next time.